In the Bryan Kohberger case, what is Ted Bundy's attorney doing chiming in?
From one famous trial to another, we're going to see what Ted Bundy's attorney has to say. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And I am shocked that you found this, Andrew. What are we looking at today?
I thought it was kind of bizarre too, but one of the attorneys, the primary attorney for Ted Bundy, actually was interviewed about the Bryan Kohberger Idaho 4 case and had a few things to say. And I just thought that would, if people follow us because we're a true crime legal channel, I don't think that I have to introduce the Ted Bundy case, do I? Because I mean, that was one of the big first, huge nationally followed. I mean, there have been a lot of them, Son of Sam, of course, Charles Manson, but the Ted Bundy case just was really kind of a notorious, crazy case. The guy, went from one coast, the West Coast, started out in the Washington State, Seattle area, ended up in Colorado, and ended up down in Florida. So it was a case that people, were really shocked by. Could this really happen? And so his attorney, it did not go fully into retirement, and he ends up on one of the TV networks, and then he ends up in Newsweek magazine. And we've followed Newsweek before. It used to be a much more, prominent news source than it is now, but let's take a look. Bryan Kohberger's attorneys need to change strategy, Ted Bundy lawyers says. You know what my first impression was? Bundy was found guilty, so but Bundy was found guilty, so but all right, it takes pretty big cojones to represent a guy like Ted Bundy, and so the guy has a lot of experience in this kind of thing. But here it is, by Jenna Sundell of Newsweek. A former defense attorney for Ted Bundy weighed in on Bryan Kohberger's defense strategy as the case continues to progress. Kohberger, 29, is charged. And, this is background. And we really do need to mention it because sometimes people forget. And I hope not, but he faces 4 counts of first-degree M and 1 count of felony burglary. He is accused of fatally stabbing University of Idaho students Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin in an off-campus residence in Moscow, Idaho in 2022. John Henry Browne, Ted Bundy's former attorney, spoke to Fox News Digital about the Kohberger case. If I were his lawyers, I would start playing offense a lot, Browne said, because you're not going to get anywhere in a case like this playing nice. Well, I mean, come on. You don't think that Ann Taylor and Jay Logston and Alyssa Masoth have been playing pretty good hardball in this case?
Well, they've been, I feel like, pretty offensive overall. I mean, we've talked about in the past with Ann Taylor and the fact that she's trying to get the death penalty off the table before we even know, before the trial has even happened. I would say that to a level, I would say that she's been more offensive than defensive. She's, I feel like, really been pushing, and we got, the trial moved. So part of me, I don't know.
I just found that an odd statement. If I were his lawyers, I would start playing offense a lot. Because you're not going to get anywhere in a case like this playing nice. I don't know. From reading our comments, a lot of people do not think that Ann Taylor is playing nice. Now, I looked up John Henry Browne. His law office is in Seattle, and I left a voicemail. I thought it'd be really interesting to talk to him because this is just a little snippet. We're going to see one more page, but it's a relatively short article, and I thought it was, interesting on its face that an attorney that had represented Ted Bundy is now talking about the Idaho 4 case. So I gave him a call. John Henry Browne, his office is in Seattle. So, of course, I got voicemail and I left a message, explaining our channel and what we do. And I said, Oh, by the way, you're a Seattle attorney. My uncle was an attorney in Seattle. And so I just left that as a little personal note, and I haven't. When the phone rang, it was him. So, or I should say, when the phone didn't ring, I knew it was him. So here's page 2 of the article. It starts out with a picture of Ann Taylor, who apparently needs to be more aggressive or offensive or whatever. With Mr. Why does Mr. Kohberger always look so happy? I mean, not that I ever would be, but if I was in his shoes, I would not be happy.
I think you're flattering him a lot with this photo to say he looks happy.
Well, I don't know.
He doesn't look like his. Well, I was going to say that his life's going to be ruined, but realistically, if he's found guilty, then he's not going to have to worry about his life getting ruined.
His suit is certainly pressed better than my suit today. Anyhow, let's go. Bryan Kohberger, censor who was accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in November 2022, sits with 2 of his attorneys, Ann Taylor left and Jay Logston. Kohberger's suit is even pressed better than Logston. Okay, I'm going to get comments for that. That was really catty for you to say. So I apologized. Here's the rest of the article. The defense has filed a motion for a Franks hearing. The purpose of a Franks hearing is to determine whether an affidavit used to obtain a search warrant contains truthful information. Newsweek, that's kind of you need to get a lawyer writing this stuff, because the purpose of a Franks hearing is really more to see if there's lies in the affidavits, to see if there are intentional misstatements in the affidavits that underlie, the search warrants. So I think that's kind of a backwards way of saying it. I mean, it's true, but it's just not really, the best way to put that. He says that Browne told the news outlet that these motions are not often granted, but it could harm the prosecution's case if successful. True. He said the defense only needs to convince one juror that the prosecution's case is inconclusive. Well, that's kind of a thing that defense attorneys say to themselves. We only have to convince one juror, and then we get a hung jury. But then you're back in the beginning, as is going on in the Karen Reed case. So getting a mistrial is not really the greatest thing.
Not ideal.
No. He said that jurors will be likely to be interested in the prosecution's theory about a potential motive. Quote, I have no idea what the state's theory is about why Kohberger chose these people in this house to go kill and leave a knife sheath that has DNA on it. It's actually touch DNA, sir. Browne said he is not sure why Kohberger, who was a Washington State University Ph.D. student at the time, crossed state lines to commit the crime. Here's some guy who drives 10 miles from a state where there's no capital punishment, from a state where there's an active mental health defense, to a state where there's no mental health defense, and the DP is very active, he said. I think it's just fascinating to me. I don't know what to imply from it, but I know the facts are the facts. Now, I don't know, Lainey, if Mr. Kohberger did it, as you know, we've many times said that we respect Mr. Kohberger's right to a presumption of innocence, and we mean that sincerely. But just hypothetically, if he did do it, and if he did have some motive, which we really haven't heard a good explanation for, do you think he'd take these things into account? Oh, wait, we have a mental health defense in Washington, but not over in Idaho.
With the criminology background, I think that kind of feeds into it. A lot of people are questioning, where it's like you have someone who has a background in criminology that made all these mistakes, and then you're on top of it adding that he just also completely overlooked these laws. I mean, if you're in the state of mind to think that you can do this kind of crime and get away with it, you're not thinking right. But at the same time, I think that's one of the concerns that a lot of people have with the case, is that they've pinned this guy who, out of everybody that could potentially be a suspect, would seemingly, hopefully at this point in his education, have had some idea to not mess up to this extent. Because it's kind of a fair point that he's making. It's why would it have been those people specifically, and did he not have any idea? Does it not make a difference, or you just, your wires are short-circuiting and you're not thinking at all? something to think about.
No, I agree. It's something to think about. But this is what I always mean when I tell our commenters, be nice, be kind. Let's not engage in name calling. Do it respectfully, because I totally disagree with what you said. And the reason that I disagree is, some of the primary theories would have really, riled the guy up. Again, these are theories and it's hypothetical, and we do assume and presume that he's innocent. But one of the theories is it was a drug hit. Whoever committed these crimes, went in there, to clean up and make demands for money. So if somebody has that, dead set, motivation that they're going to go over and do that, they're not thinking about, the law or the defense. They're just going to do it. And one of the other theories, again, it's only a theory. It's only a theory. We don't know, but that he had been spurned by these girls. And don't tell me it's been debunked, because it hasn't been debunked. He went into one of the restaurants and saw Maddie or one of them working in there. And he, went on to one of the social media sites and tried to connect with her, and she ignored him. So whoever did the crime, he was angry. He was really angry that this pretty blonde girl ignored him. And so he just went over and did what he did. So if that's true, outside of our hypothetical, if that's true, he had that state of mind that he was just going to go get him. So what would he care about these legal niceties? I mean, I don't know.
That's a fair point, because I think I personally am so far detached from being in the position to even do something like that, where I agree, where it's just like, if you're going to commit the crime in the first place, your wires are probably too crossed to consider the legality at that point. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, Ted Bundy, if we're talking about Ted Bundy, he had some kind of a mental, as you put it, wire crossed, that when he identified one of his victims, he was just going to do what he was going to do. And who knows, the legal niceties. Oh, geez, and he was a law student, by the way. He started law school. He never finished it. But, anyhow, so.
I'm going to start looking into these law students, Andrew. I have some questions for you.
I always said if anybody wanted to tail me, they would die of boredom, because, I went to law school and I went home and studied and watched TV. I went to law school the next day. I went home and rode the red line. Oh, my God. Had to take a shower after that. And anyhow, so that was my life in law school.
And I can even vouch for you right now, even as a legal professional now. We record these sometimes on Fridays, and Friday nights, Andrew says, I got to go to the grocery store so I can make dinner for tonight, so I can go work out tomorrow.
Yeah, that's my life. Sorry. If you want to tail me, you better bring your no-dos or something. A lot of coffee. Bundy was convicted, of course, of he was only convicted of, is that right? I thought he was convicted of, okay. Bundy was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder in 1979 and an additional count in 1980. The night before Bundy was executed, he confessed to 30 homicides. He was executed by electric chair in 1989, and with no apology to the people that are opposed to the capital punishment. If there was ever a guy that deserved the death penalty, it was Ted Bundy. The way I understood it, and maybe we should do like a little episode on the Ted Bundy case, because it's a fascinating case. The way I understand it is he was, playing the game that, he didn't want to be executed. And he promised that if they didn't execute him, he would make more admissions as to additional homicides. And at that point, the governor of Florida and the others who are decision makers had had enough of him. They had had enough of his extending it and filing additional motions to stop the capital punishment. So even though at the very last minute he said, hey guys, if you don't execute me, I'll make one. They said, no, we're done with you and you're done. Bye. So I do remember there were vigils. I know I'm going to get comments about what I just said about if anybody deserves the death penalty, it was Ted Bundy. And I'm going to get comments, but there were vigils outside of the facility where the DP was administered. And so anyhow, that's... I just thought that was interesting that this attorney chimed in, and that the comment that stands out to me is that if I were his lawyers, I would start playing offense a lot, because you're not going to get anywhere in a case like this playing nice. So I would extend a invitation to Attorney Browne in Seattle to give us a call and do an interview. We won't take too much of your time, but I don't know. I thought it would be an interesting interview, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think our commenters agree that having anybody on the show, I think, gives us a different perspective. I think every person that we talk to manages to pull something up that we had never even considered in the first place. I think that it would be a pleasure having him on. I hope he gets back to us. I hope he sees this, if anything. And I know that our commenters would love to see him on too. So
yeah, I keep getting comments. Why don't you have Mark Bettero on? We did have Mark Bettero. So go back, and we did talk about we talked about all of his letters, but we really in that episode focused on one of his letters and just his overall view. And he was in court again this past week as we record this. And the judge, I watched some of it. The judge was really peppering Mark Bettero and Attorney Bradle, who are representing Turtle Boy, really peppered him. But you know what? Turtle Boy walked out of the court with his cell phone. A year and a month or so after they took it away, and they said, no, we never downloaded it. Then they found out that they had extracted it right away. So anyhow, that was an interesting little side comment. Speaking of comments, we have some comments. We love the fact that we get commenters, and we like to read some of them. This is Susie High School that had kind of a fascinating comment here. What Susie says is that the real question is, how would anyone who hadn't been in that house before not bust AZZZ, in that tiny little out of place living room step in the dark? When I moved there, now that's interesting. Did she live there?
I don't know.
When I moved there, well, I emailed her. I gave her our new email, and I asked her to give me an email because I'd love to talk to her more. But anyhow, when I moved, there was an odd placed small step outside going to the driveway, and I don't know how many times I tripped or busted my toe on that thing before I got used to it. That little step has eaten at me since the beginning of this case, to be honest. It's one of those little house quirks that would have made it more difficult to maneuver in and out of that little maze of a house if you weren't familiar with it. That little step is one of the many reasons that house shouldn't have been torn down. And I would agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I feel like I've mentioned similar stuff where it's just like you go into the buildings, especially, well, I'll use Massachusetts as an example. I've been inside bars where it's completely carpeted. I know my criminal behavior. But it's like you'll be stepping and maybe the floor will be at a slope or something and you don't even realize. It's just so many different places you go when you're not in a familiar place. There's just one or two steps that are going to send you and smacking on the wall to get your balance.
Yeah, there was a bar I used to go into in Cambridge.
You go to bars?
Not only that, there was a bar in Cambridge that I used to go in all the time. And from the time I walked in the bar and the bartender saw me and I walked to my bar stool, he already had my Rolling Rock out. So. Edit.
And you knew the step, and you knew where every step in that bar was.
Wait, did I? Yeah. Oh, good grief.
All right. So theory neutral. Don't be silly, Andrew. We watch all your videos all the way through at least once. Aw, I like that there's no pandering here or begging for funds. If at some point in 2025 you find the time to go over what there is of the available evidence, I particularly enjoy your coverage of this case, as well as your opinions and those of your colleagues. We don't need to agree. And if the evidence is ever unsealed and this trial doesn't take place in the dark like Delphi, we might even form informed opinions. Oh my gosh, the Delphi.
Yeah, so this person watches all the way to the end, and I meant to tell you, you started this thing with the dolphins, and then you went to apples, and then you went to suns. So last week when Yoli filled in and helped with a Kohberger episode, I told her what I just told you, and I said, what should we tell people? And she said, hot dogs. I said, is there even, I don't even know, is there an emoji for hot dogs? And I said, so what about hamburgers? She said, well, so we got a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we got hot dogs. So
what are we getting today? You have to pick an emoji.
I was going to ask you.
Oh, Christmas trees, probably.
Oh, no, we did Christmas trees.
Oh, we did. You're right. We have the collection. Maybe a first Christmas present?
I've got an idea.
Let's hear it.
It's Lily's 14th birthday today as we do this. It's Lily the Legal Beagle's 14th birthday. So why don't we ask people to leave a puppy dog.
Puppy dogs, birthday cakes, birthday celebrations. Let's hear it in the comments for Lily.
I think we have one more. Yeah, we have one more. Do you have one more?
We have 3 more.
Did I mess up these?
No, we're
numbers?
counting
Okay.
down. 5, 4, 3.
I wrote law. This is Killer somebody. Is that right? I can't. Killer verb.
Yeah.
Okay. I wrote law and motions for years. That's great. This is either an attorney or a paralegal, I would guess. This judge, constantly referred to as stern, no nonsense, makes me laugh. He is the type of judge I would absolutely expect in a felony M case, aka a good experienced judge that's bright, competent, values his time, and is respectful of others until they try to jerk him around. And I agree with everything up to this point. I absolutely agree. Judge would never cut it in a large metro court setting of the type I am most familiar. I think he is great, just with this sluggish case. Yeah, I would agree. I hate to disparage anybody, especially a sitting judge. But anyhow, so yeah, I think.
What about
a
retiring judge?
Yeah, the judge, he came in, very strong. He said, I wish I could say I was happy to be here, but let's not start with a mistruth. And he's kind of clipped Ann Taylor's wings a couple of times when she wrote a motion that went over the number of pages, and the prosecution pointed it out. He, especially more in a footnote, he says, come on, guys, you got to follow the rules. If you're going to be in my court, you got to follow the rules. And I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but the prosecution will be allowed to extend the page limit on their motion or their response. So you know what? I don't know. I didn't make a big deal out of that. But so there have been 2 hearings. Another big hearing will be the Frank's motion hearing. And yeah, he's kind of drawn a line and set the tone that he will hold everybody to the rules. He will hold everybody to the schedules. There was a motion that was filed by Ann Taylor asking for an extension of discovery. And he said, nuh-uh. So he's kind of set the tone on this one.
Bell City Girl. Do judges see all the evidence against the defendant before the trial?
Well, they see what is submitted to them. And in this case, with 18 rounds of discovery and a number of motions to compel, usually, the discovery just goes back and forth between the parties. And unless it's brought to the judge's attention, they really don't see it all. But in this case, it has been brought to the judge's attention. It's all been sealed. So whether he has looked through it or not, I don't know. What do you think the chances are that he's looked all through the 51 terabytes?
Oh, no shot. Oh, my God. I'm sorry. I don't know how much I need to get paid to look through all those 51 terabytes myself. I'm sure he has someone looking through them, but I don't know about him himself. Imagine how many hours of video that is.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. He's got court clerks that can do that. Every time he has come out, there have been court clerks in the background. And the last one is from Karen G. It's a real stretch to declare that Kohberger fled the state of Washington with his dad in the car and arriving to their family home on holiday winter break. If he truly fled, you wouldn't find him at his parents' house, which I thought was a good point, where he lived and grew up. Why wouldn't they arrest Kohberger while in Washington? Because they had nothing to arrest him. So they created the fleeing story so they could arrest him. Such was an obvious and bogus move. Going home for the holidays with his dad with him to share driving time is not a real fleeing charge. Most kids at college would be going home as well. Yeah, I did. I went home to Pennsylvania. Because that's where my parents lived at that time. And so the issue here was, and Yoli had very eloquently pointed out that, under the law, they were arresting him as a fugitive from justice, but he really was not a fugitive from justice because
he's just taking out the trash.
Well, no, he was leaving Washington State in early to mid-December. And at that point, there was no legal process against him. There was absolutely no legal process against him. So, you can't say he was fleeing, or you can't say that he was a fugitive from justice where there was nothing filed against him at that time. So we kind of went into that a little bit last week. So I'm not going to belabor the point, but I don't know. It's nutty. And yes, I do think the judge will stick to his schedule. People, that's one of the favorite questions people have. Do you think the case will really be tried next August? Yeah, I do. I really do. Unless there's something that's unexpected that comes up, like the frat boys come up and admit it, which I doubt.
Yeah, I think at this point it's been going long enough that we can expect it to continue on course unless something crazy breaks out. But because we haven't had anything crazy happen so far, we can probably assume that nothing's going to come out.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's our Kohberger episode for this week. I mentioned before that Lily the Legal Beagle turns 14 today, and I'm so excited that she's still with us. So Lily,
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday,
to you.
Lily!
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Lily, look,
We got presents!
look at it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Lily! Good job!
Dear. Happy birthday.
There she goes.
to
She
you.
knows it's for her.
Today's your special day.
Good girl, Lily.
And we're here to say,
Happy birthday.
may all your dreams come true in
You got a
every
duck,
single
Lily.
way.
Woo!
Happy birthday. You shine like
loves
the
it.
morning sun. Here's to joy, love,
What do we got here,
a
Lily?
year full of fun.
Oh, she took the hat off. What's that toy, Lily? Another dog!
Touch so
You got
many
two ducks,
hearts
Lily.
with your kindness and your grace.
It's your birthday
A true
cake,
light in the
Lily!
darkness, a smile on every face. May your
Lily, we got more
head be
presents,
bright,
girly!
filled with wonder day and night. May you dance in the rain, feel no sorrow, no pain. Happy birthday, you shine like
She's back on the duck.
morning sun. Here's to joy,
You got a
love,
fancy
and
blanket,
laughter, and a
Lily.
year full of fun.
Ooh.
So we raise a toast to you
So cozy up with it.
for all the great things you do.
We are all done celebrating Lily's birthday.
dear. May all your wishes come true.
She's gonna have her steak tips. She's got more birthday cake. Oh, it's because she knows she has steak tips coming on the way. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end. Please be sure to leave emojis in the comments for Lily. Be sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button. And we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Whether you're in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.